ADHD strategy in my own design. Shaking off the scripts they wrote in my mind. ADHD rhythm in my stride. Energy budget holding me aligned. I'm returning to the part.
It's Mo. Welcome to ADHD Energy Strategy with our special guest today, Ashley Lundblade of Lundblade House Productions. I had a chance to sit down with her today in a little chat. And honestly, you know, we're both entrepreneurs. And so we talked about today just how cool it is that in our life today, we get to talk to each other. And, you know, she's a person who in this call you'll be hearing soon. She has collaborated with me on projects before, and she is just a person that I've grown to feel close to. We went to college together, and she was younger than me, so I was leaving as she was coming in, but we were familiar with each other. And so it wasn't until this last year through this community that we were reacquainted. And I can't remember exactly how it went. If it was that I reached out to her and asked her if she wanted to come to a call. I feel like we'd interacted online, and I was like, man, we're really vibing. I think we just need to go ahead, you know, and hang out. And so I think that's how it went. But long story short, she ended up coming into this community, attending the calls ADHD Energy Strategy Live, which she's the sponsor of this week, which we really are so grateful for that. She became a part of the community. And my mission last year was, at least one of my goals, one of my missions, was to do business more intentionally with people who support me. And people who contribute to the spaces that I'm in, and also specifically to women. And so during the year last year, when all of this was unfolding, this friendship, and of course I'm learning that she owns Lundblade House Productions. She is a filmmaker. She owns Lundblade House Productions. You know, she does all of it. I'll tell you a little bit about some of her different ways that she can serve you as a client here in just a minute. But I think more importantly, what I want to share is because I knew her and I was able to experience her in community, I was able to realize that this is a person that I really vibe with, and collaborating would feel smooth and easy. And also I appreciate that she's here and she supports me. So I should at least get on the phone with her and see what collaborating would look like, you know? And of course, a lot has unfolded since, and I'm sure you've seen some of the work. If you haven't, she put together the video and all the photography for me at the Bold Women Summit in Joplin, and did just this amazing job. And she's such an incredible interviewer, and we talk about that. Lundblade House Productions began in Wichita with a simple and profound mission, and that's to tell stories that resonate and inspire action and foster genuine connections. And so her collaborations really help to bring forward in those that she's partnering with the version of themselves that they want to see and share with the community and share with the world, and those who might also like to vibe and do business with them. And so you can kind of see how all this comes together, and you'll hear me even in the conversation with Ashley chat a little bit about how that is when life starts to feel really fun, when your intentional connections, your intentional collaborations, the people you intentionally do business with are people you get, people who get you, people who respect you, people you like, people you look forward to doing business with. That is really cool. And so these sponsorships feel that way for me. And instead of putting in 1,000 ads throughout our podcast every week, come and hear about this person. This person is one of us. You know, she's an ADHDer. She thinks in ways that you will totally get. She's a member of this community, so she's a person you've been around, and you get a feel for who they are. And if it fits, cool. Now you know someone who owns a production company who can do just about any type of project that would involve video and photography, you know? And we all, whether it's marketing or brand, you know, building and storytelling, it's all really cool when you know someone who can help you tell your story. And so that's why I thought it would be really fun to bring her in for this conversation so you can get to find out for yourself. And this is what we do with all the sponsors of this show. So listening to this podcast is going to be more like hanging out with a couple of friends than hearing a pitch. That's also something that I think is really important. And also just for you to know that her mission really is to help harness authentic video narratives, and she absolutely does that. And I think in the call you'll hear how she's even helped me to think of a couple of ways that I can be sharing my story differently. Like she just sort of heard it and I'm like, yeah, that's really good. You know, that helps me come out more. You know, the people that you're around, that helps call forward in you the parts of you that you love and get excited about too. You know, that's really fun. So I'm really looking forward to you hearing from Ashley. Her website is lundbladehouseproductions.com. I will link it below, along with any other way that you can find her. And you will absolutely see her in community again. And if you'd like to come to our monthly ADHD community calls, community hangouts, ADHD Energy Strategy Live, once a month, the last Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you have questions about your time, let me know. I'll put them all in a little message to you. You can reach out to me, mo@adhdenergystrategy.com. That's everything I've got for you. Let's get this episode started in 3, 2, 1. Ashley Lundblade. Hello, my friend.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. You know, we've been chatting just so you know who's listening on the other side of the speaker. We start these things like pretending that we just got on here, but we've actually been like in ADHD fashion. We talked for 20 minutes before we started. And I didn't even realize it. You know, I didn't even realize it. And I was like, oh my God, I should probably hit start. And oh my God, we're just like, you know, but this is how it goes, isn't it?
You were so subtle the whole time. I kind of thought we were recording until you got to the point of, hey, this would be a great moment of like hitting go. And I was like, you know what? Let's go.
You know, I thought about hitting record at one point, and then we started talking about like geopolitical issues, and I'm like, I don't know if she wants this recorded, because we were just talking about, do we want to put these things out there? But it was good stuff.
It was. And always nice to have just a moment of like a little bit of vulnerability before you go into these conversations, because I think it tends to translate over, at least with what I do and with the interviews I conduct. I can't tell you how many times I do like to warn my clients, like, I'm probably going to start recording in a moment that you don't know about, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
You know, I do everything with 2 cameras, and I do it for a reason. If I could have more than 2 cameras, that's even better. But in terms of ensuring that the person feels like they can be authentic in the moment and just really be vulnerable, let that guard down, be their natural selves, you know, it kind of requires that they don't know when things are on, you know, so that way they don't have to go, okay, I gotta turn on now, you know?
Yeah, I gotta do my professional energy. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I noticed that with you. So you may or may not know this, but Ashley was the videographer and photographer for the Bold event that I was the keynote speaker at in Joplin. For me, she came on Team Mo, you know. and so we did this whole day at the Spiva Center for the Arts. Shout out. And we, of course, I knew the way that I just get, okay, I'm doing glitch moment, because I'm going back to the way you set us up, and I'll get to that here in just a minute, but the way you set us up months in advance preparing for this event, which was so beautiful as a collaborator, and then the day of the event, the way that we interacted. Also, the next day when it was just me and you, and we were doing interviews, which is exactly what you're talking about, and the way that you create this beautiful space for the person who you're recording to show up. And as a person who, in that moment, as a human being, also as a brand, also as someone who sincerely, earnestly wants to connect in the most real way I am able to, because I like to be in front of people, obviously, can't always be. So I want to connect on camera. And so I felt that from you too. I felt that from you so strongly, the energy of it's really important for me to help you be you right now. So that's really what I'm hearing you say. And
Good. I'm
I
glad that
experienced it.
landed. I mean, I think that you can share this, Mo, because I have a big theater background. I've done, modeling since I was, I think, probably 13 is when I got started. And so being in front of the camera is not unfamiliar to me, but it's one of those things that as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more far away from. Every now and then, I mean, I do these weekly vlogs, excuse me. I do these weekly vlogs, and they are wonderful for having an opportunity to step into my client's shoes and know what that feels like. Because when you enter a room, like you were talking about, when you enter a room that you're going to be filming yourself, for one. So there's that performance mode that just automatically turns on.
Yeah.
And then you see, I won't deny, I don't do things small. I don't do them little. So you see the lights, and the lights are not small, and they come at you from several different angles, and there's multiple cameras, and then there's of course a boom mic that's hanging over your head sometimes. And it's a full setup. It can be a little daunting. And like I said, it just makes that performer kind of, I don't know, bury their heels in the sand even more in a moment where I need them to be them, because our most cinematic moments truly are when we're just being ourselves. I mean, how often is it that you notice somebody, like, you're having coffee with a friend and they're talking about something they're really passionate about, and the light is coming in from the window and it's hitting their face just right, and hopefully you have the opportunity in that moment to recognize it and to see it and to go, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful moment. If only that was captured on camera. That's my entire life. It's nothing but moments of that. And so when I have somebody that has agreed to actually let me capture it, it's like, I need them not to shift into that performer mode. I need them to stay who they are. I need their authentic selves, because that's what I was seeing all along. That's the magic. That's where the money's at,
Yeah, and it's where, as an individual who is on camera and then later will review the footage, you want to see that too. It's you want to go, oh, okay, good. That feels like me. That feels like me, And I feel like a lot of times I will witness people who are, my God, I see people who are the most magnetic people I've ever met in my life. And then they get on camera or on stage, and it shifts away all the magic that exists in them. And as a performer and a speaker and a total theater kid, improv gal, it like, I die in those moments for people, because I see this all the time, especially with people who want to be speakers specifically. Which, if you're going to be a speaker, you're going to be on camera and you're going to be working with people like Ashley, so that you can capture you doing the thing you do, which at the end of the day is the essence of aliveness of who you are, And so when I see people, a lot of times it really is like getting so caught up in their head about all the rules they've ever heard about the way to be dynamic on camera, which, once again, let's get into ADHD and neurodivergence and labels and being told the way you're supposed to be and not this way and not this. And we get really good at picking up all the rules of how we've been told a person should be on camera, on stage, whatever else it might be. Especially when you think about all the critiquing and the, when you get graded on stuff, they have to come up with some type of damn criteria to check you against, and it's all the wrong stuff. It's like, dude, if you can get on camera and be yourself, not perfect cussing if you happen to cuss, saying in case you say flailing your arms around. If you're just so undeniably connected to the center and the core of who you are, none of that shit matters, right?
You got nothing to worry about. You're free.
Exactly.
Oh, so true, so true. It's funny that you said something about should, because I've been joking with my mom for the last couple of days. I was telling her about my to-do list of just, it's a busy week. And I didn't notice this for a hot second. And then when she pointed it out, I couldn't stop noticing it now. I started every sentence with, I should do this. I should do that. I gotta do this, so I should do that, you know?
Yeah.
And she stopped me at some point and she said, Ashley, stop shoulding all over yourself.
Yeah.
And I love that little phrase. She likes to use that every now and then, because I am one of those people that, like you were talking about, I think it's a neurodivergent trait where you have a slated list of how things are supposed to go. And you have in that list a handful of like offshoot opportunities. That's a high functioning anxiety at work a lot of times, is like, okay, we think it's going to go this way, but at some point in the road, it could turn and it could go this way, and your day can totally change. So let's stay flexible. Let's, stay bendable. Let's stay amenable is the biggest issue for me usually. I like to go with the flow. And then next thing you know, my day has been hijacked and I go on adventures that, while they might be fun, I didn't plan on, and I end up in a shame spiral if I don't prep myself mentally for that correctly. Like, I'm all down for spontaneous adventures, don't get me wrong, but I need to know, like, okay, Friday. So this is the thing we've started. We do Field Trip Friday. My mom is she's retired, and she helps me out. She's a wonderful photographer, so she's also my events photographer, and she does wonderful red carpet photography. But, when she's not working for me, she's off traveling the world. That is her passion, that is her purpose, and that is what I try to help support. And so with that, she's like, I don't know, she's in a realm of her own thing, and we don't always align, is the thing. While she travels, I'm a homebody. While she might be off taking pictures of somebody, I'm usually interviewing somebody. We're on different planes, and so we have to be respectful of each other, and our energy flows for that. So we started this thing. I can't go off on a Wednesday on a random adventure to Quivira Wildlife National Refuge to go take pictures of birds. I can't do that. I'm not retired. But she is. She can. So go for it. However, again, that gets lonely after a while, and I like going on these adventures with her. So what we started doing is that on Fridays, we do Field Trip Friday. I allow myself 2 hours to take off a little bit early. And I go with her we pick someplace earlier in the week to go, and we'll go do the spontaneous thing. We don't always pick, honestly. Sometimes we actually end up doing something entirely different than what we had talked about doing,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that's what I was talking about. It's like allowing for the containment of spontaneity. I'm here for it, but I kind of, as a neurodivergent, I do need to make a container or a slot for it. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And also, let's just talk about how cool it is energy-wise, what you're doing, okay? Oh my God, I love this. First of all, love your mom. I've met her. She's a star, baby. I just really just dig her. She's such a cool vibe. But also, what's very cool about what you're saying is you're also a creative person. And so, we, as creative people, we get excited about the ideas we have, especially if we're neurodivergent people, right? And so, you also have a business and deadlines and these things you've got to do, right? And I think if we could have it our way as creative people and as neurodivergent people, we would never have to have a timeline, or you know, all my days are free, you know. And of course you do your best to create that, you know, and that's part of like the journey of entrepreneurship, but also the journey of energy strategy and the journey of harnessing your power and the energy that you have in the direction of the things that are going to move the needle for you is really important. And what I love about what you just shared, and if you're listening to this right now, good chance you experience this too. The space of all work and no play makes Ashley a dull girl, you know. You can get in places sometimes, right, where you're just so focused on work, but then also your mind is drifting, as it will, and the pull for the drift gets harder the less fun you have, the less room you make space for, the less you contain, you know, places, especially where if you're not able to naturally just follow it in the day, that you find it in the week somewhere, you know, because otherwise, do you find it this way, Ashley, where if you're not able to have these creative outlets that are just whimsy vibes, that are just follow the flow vibes, that your brain feels like you're having to like almost, I like imagine a horse on a, what are those things? A leash? What do they call them for a horse? It's not a leash. It's a, what do they call those? I want to say there's a saddle involved.
Saddle, but then there's the
leather rope.
we'll go with leather rope.
The thing you're yanking,
See it with clarity.
Yeah, it's like I imagine like a horse trainer yanking a horse's head and the horse is not moving. Do you feel like if you don't have these contained spaces that you get more in those places, or is this me projecting other people's experience?
No, it's ironic, is what it is. It's kind of spooky, actually.
Yeah.
No, straight up. When I was around, I don't know, 5-ish years old, I love telling this story, but I was falling asleep a lot in class, and so my teachers, thankfully, my teacher was paying attention to that and mentioned it to my parents and said, you should probably have her tested for something. We don't know what. Have her tested.
You need to have her tested because I am entertaining. I don't know how she's falling asleep.
Like she well, it was interesting though, because I was keeping up on my I was actually excelling as far as when it came to taking tests and doing my work. I did just fine in that arena, albeit I did struggle to turn in my work.
Yeah, me too.
I do the work, but I'd not actually go the full, that was a hint unto itself. I would not go the full step of turning in the work.
Dude, we're like the opposite, except I didn't do both. Like,
you didn't do either?
Do the work to the last minute and then still miss the deadline.
I understand that.
I don't care about this.
That's just proof that you didn't want to do it, plain out.
Literally.
You just didn't wanna. Yeah. Well, so anyway, so I ended up getting my hearing tested, as well as just some general brain stuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. And one of the most acute observations, I love this so much. Oh, forgive me.
We have our very own. Ashley, for those listening, is going to the door. I'm not going to cut this because I don't like to do a lot of editing. That's my ADHD thing. So everyone's going to catch that whole thing. I was chatting with people who are gone because I was just telling him I don't like to do a bunch of editing. So I'm definitely leaving this.
You got it. I actually really enjoy the episodes where they say they're going to take it out and then they don't. And you find out what the hot goss is. And it usually is really funny. And admittedly, I did run so much, I actually nicked myself on my own nail. I was like,
oh no,
I was overexcited. But that's story of my life. I get very excited and I lose all awareness of my surroundings. It's been a big lesson though, and as somebody in video production, because you're handling so much heavy equipment that it really is a lesson in presence, you know?
Oh my God, I bet. And remembering all the stuff. Do you know how, and I want to get back to your story, but I just have to tell you one of the reasons that I have not I'm intimidated by what you do on a level, because it's remembering, it's not just remembering to bring the stuff, it's remembering to charge the stuff and remembering to put it back where it goes. And like when I think about, I'm not kidding you, Ashley, the mental load of what you do. Now I think our brains are different. I think they're different in a lot of ways, same in some for sure. Um but I when I think about what you do and I think about all the things you have to remember, it's a lot.
It seems like a lot, but Mo, okay. I wonder though, girl, are we actually more similar than you're giving credit
Maybe we
for?
are.
Because here's why. It's not any different than, okay, I mentioned earlier, I've done theater since I was in like the 6th grade. I am used to memorizing soliloquies, like
Yeah.
pages of soliloquies. And people used to be fascinated with how I could do that. I think that's one of the things that most people are fascinated with actors about, is like, how do you remember all those lines?
Yeah.
But here's the truth, and it's a dirty little secret. But at least for me, a lot of everything I remember is built around it's like music. And I've actually heard there's studies and stuff about people that are like professional memorizers. This is one of the ways that they do it, is that if they string together whatever the string of knowledge that they have, if they string it together in a musical way, your brain is more likely to retain it. So hence why, like, music, you can listen to a song 3 times, 4 times, and then pretty much know the lyrics, not to mention your brain starts to fill in clues. It makes kind of a flow, a beat, a pattern, right? And then it just repeats that over and over and over again. For me, it's no different than learning lines. Is basically, it's film production. So for me, the camera's starting when I push record. That's not the beginning. My beginning happened when I first started. Actually, it depends on how the project comes about, but like if you bring me the project, then it starts at that moment. If I come up with the idea for a project or a concept, then I gotta say it starts then. Because what happens is that I have to think about logistics. I gotta play it out. Again, that might be the high functioning anxiety in me, but because of that, I know how the song goes. I know how it's
that makes
flow.
sense.
And if there's a hiccup in there, I know when, and I know how, and I know why. And as much as I understand the functionality of everything, that's usually the most critical part about anything that has ever seemed overwhelming. I'm one of those. I've heard the term before. I don't know that I technically classify as this, but I do enjoy the concept of being an autodidact, where you are basically self-taught in a lot of different things.
Yeah, I get that.
And I am one of those people where I'm like, there's nothing I can't learn. So no amount of knowledge is too little to memorize, there's no mountain I can't climb, not truly, if it's a mental, if anything, it's a physical obstacle, and even that's pretty limiting. Like there's gotta be a way around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense because for me, I guess I don't think of it that way, but as soon as you put it all together, like for example, the Bold Women Summit in Joplin that we both worked.
How do you memorize that entire speech?
Well, I think it's similar to so first of all, it's not really memorized. Do you want to hear this story? Because this is your interview, gal,
I'm very curious because I was actually, when I was reviewing your footage, that was really a fascinating part to me, was listening to the way it felt like you had a flow about it that seemed like it was written, but not. It was authentic.
Yeah, that's because that's what it is. It was written, but not.
But
here's what's interesting. It's a lot like what you said. So every single piece of that event for me as a neurodivergent person, everything feels really big and like a whole lot of work immediately. It's like, whoa, this is a lot. Like, honestly, the reason that energy budgeting is a thing is because everything feels like such a lot of work to me all the time. If it's doing anything, I'm like, gosh, that's a lot of work. Now, even if I'm excited about it, but if I'm excited about it, I usually don't even think about it long. I'm just like, And so what I do is similar to what you do. It's like the project starts the moment I know it's going to happen. And then I go through every single thing I think about. Okay, obviously, it starts with, well, I got to make sure that I have this speech, and then they're going to need a bio. And so I literally go through in my head every single thing that's going to have to happen between now and then. And I take a lot, and I mean a lot of time to map out every single piece of it. So in a lot of ways, it's exactly like what you're saying. It's you basically write the play, you direct it. And so it's like by the time the project starts, I have reviewed this material so many times that I like, especially like the day before, I'm like going through, what are all my fears about tomorrow? Are those fears that I could just handle right now by asking the question and seeing what I need to know about that? Like, okay, if this does happen, then here's what so I also don't spend a whole lot of time being shitty about having fears or things I'm nervous about. And like, don't think about that. Everything's gonna be perfect. No, think about it. What do you need? What would you need to give yourself?
Absolutely.
This is the improviser in me too, right?
Right? Can I say I'm like, there is a place and a time for fear and anxiety when you're like, it does come in handy every now and then. And especially when you're like playing the sequence of events out and you're thinking to yourself, I fall short in this arena a lot. Maybe I should start building in some contingencies. Because that, for me, absolutely, Mo, I cannot guarantee that I will remember an SD memory card or a battery for for all of my cameras every time. Or even worse, I can't guarantee that something won't happen in the moment from me packing it to me putting it in the camera. Things happen, and faulty equipment, stolen equipment, somebody accidentally bumps into the camera, knocks it over. That's actually happened.
Wow.
But you know what? Because of that high functioning anxiety that works within me and realizing it does have a place, it cannot run my world, but it does have a function. And if it's raising flags, if it's saying, over here, I have something to say, I've learned to actually listen to it and go, okay, calmly tell me, what is it that I'm missing, or what are you concerned about? Because if it's going off in my head at all, there's probably a good reason for it, and it needs to be addressed. It doesn't need to be dismissed, and it doesn't need to take up the entire room, right? But build contingencies for yourself.
Exactly. And allow those moments. Like for me, I always like to think about my fears in the way of like a small child me, like me at 5 going, hey, what's going on? I'm scared, and instead of like, I imagine any little kid, someone's like, hey, you have nothing to worry about. Just be quiet. That never helps, and so my brain is still that way. It's like, no, you need to give me some attention and be kind to me. And so meet yourself where you're at, but also a 5-year-old doesn't get to dictate your day, so it's like, let this part of you speak, listen to it. Don't hyperfixate on it and go, like spiraling down, because I do that sometimes too. So it's listen to it in a contained way too. Like, okay, I'm going to give myself space to feel this. What do I need to give myself, rather than let's focus on the fact that I am feeling fear, because fear is so normal. And especially with our brains, or like the contingency plans, it helps you be more kind the next time that you have, like, you have your event, you do your thing. I don't know about you, but I'm always like, okay, there's things I would do differently, things I liked, things I didn't like, things I was disappointed in, things that really bummed me out.
The shoulds.
The
shoulds.
Literally. And next time, because of this,
I should do that. I should have done. And I'm so done with those shoulds, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can be lessons learned without having to be like a I needed to be perfect, you know? There's no need
Yes.
for that. I don't expect, and that's funny, to make kind of bring it full circle. I don't expect my clients to do that when I'm capturing them on camera. So why would I expect myself to do that when I'm performing for my clients? You know?
Yeah.
Um, that's been a really big hack for me, I think, in this last year, um, or at least since owning my own company, is just realizing that when it comes to my interactions with my clients or the people that I interview, the best stuff is going to come from a place of genuine honesty and sometimes vulnerability,
Yep.
from me first. You know, if I expect somebody to get on camera and tell me a very heart-wrenching story about, a family member passing or something like that, I gotta probably level with them before I have that expectation. You know what I mean? Like, and the same is true with myself. So, if something doesn't go perfect, if I uh, don't get the shoot done in the timeline that I want, which is usually my biggest like cringe feeling.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when we had you, our dedicated one-on-one day, I wanted to have at least another hour of taking photos, just photos
Yeah.
of you and B-roll of you, just you. But unfortunately, A, could sense we had pushed our time, and B, we had pushed our time. But
Yeah.
like ultimately it was like oh, if only I could just have a little bit of time, and I shoulded a lot after that. Like
Yeah.
I earlier in the morning I should have set up a little bit different, and that could have saved me a little bit of time, or maybe I should have cut our conversation a little bit shorter so that I could have had that. That comes
Yeah.
up a lot. And ultimately, what ended up happening is that the following thoughts, as I sat with it and allowed the uncomfortability to exist, but allowed the grace in me to come out and to
Good.
go, hey, but is she happy? Has she texted you and said nice things? Yes. Um, that seems like a pretty good indicator. You
Yeah.
did all right. You got nothing to worry about, like, as far as time wise. And if anything, just make a case to come visit her. Come
Hmm.
to Dallas, make it a forward, perpetuating thing. It's an opportunity as opposed to oh, I should have done this.
Yeah.
It turns from like a one-ended shame spiral thing to like, oh, there's
Yeah. And you know what's cool is I have two thoughts listening to you. The first thought is, as a collaborator too, like I really felt that we, since the beginning, have really been collaborators. And, not to jump to the plug of, hey, thanks for being the sponsor of the ADHD Energy Strategy podcast and Energy Strategy Live this month. Um, you've come into these spaces as an 80. Okay, number one, thanks for doing that. She showed up in a space that I am hosting. That says a lot to me. That's really cool. She contributed to this space and in a real way. Like it felt like you wanted to be there because you were just like, this thing happened very naturally. This is how I love relationships and collaborations to work. Like, hey, I think it would be cool if you are a part of this or come to this. And we just sort of, I don't know exactly how it started, but we kind of just went back and forth, and it was like the vibed. And so I think we're always gonna have those things, but what's cool, especially about where we're at, is number one, um, love the self-talk, because I feel like that's the thing that always will be the key at the end of the day. Like every strategy in the freaking world, we all know, blah blah blah, but self-compassion is one of the greatest gifts, especially with ADHD, because we tend to be so harsh on ourselves. And so literally, if like all you ever do is think about energy, strategy, and self-compassion, two greatest tools, for an ADHDer, honestly. Because this is going to stop you from going to those places of um thinking that you always thinking you're not quite good enough, because then it feels like always everything's punishing. And then do you want to do it very much? And you can destroy the things that you love when you don't let yourself be new at a relationship and collaboration, or new at a certain way of expressing your work in the world. So that is sustainable as fook. This is long game stuff, you know? I have to be kind to myself. So when the shoulds start, the shoulds are normal. We all have shoulds. You catch it sooner and you realize, oh, this is actually that part of me that's really good at getting more skills, at growing more, expert level in my field or whatever it might be. It's like, this is a part of me that encourages me to go further. It doesn't have to be a whip cracking at the back of my head, you know?
Well, and it felt like the shoulds are a little bit of like an autopilot indicator. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, you're right. Great way to put that.
It was because of what you were saying. I just realized, because it's so, as I went through the list, I made myself re-go through that to-do list.
Yeah.
But this time consciously and very aware of how I was starting those sentences.
Yeah.
And tried choosing a different way. In the times that I couldn't choose another way. And what that meant and what the thing was, you know? Was it something I was truly dreading? Did I actually have to do it? Is it something that I felt like was obligatory? If so, like, I felt like it was just like I was saying, it's kind of an indicator of if you find yourself shoulding all over yourself, like, I should go do this, and then by this afternoon, I should go do that, and, oh yeah, I gotta make dinner, so I should go to the grocery store. See, it's like all of that adds up to, that sounds like autopilot.
It's like checklist energy big time.
It's checklist energy. I'm not really evaluating what brings joy to my life, and I'm not being conscious of the joy. Because what I realized when I went through that list also is that there were definitely items on there that I started to say should. And then I was like, wait a minute. I mean, yes, it's obligatory, but I actually really enjoy it. I just at some point maybe made it like a routine thing so that it was built in, and I'm kind of blind to the joy.
Yeah.
You know, like editing is a really easy one for me to get kind of blind from, the joy of editing. Because frankly, that's where the story is crafted the most.
Wow. Gosh, girl.
Yeah. And so, but I have to maintain that joy, you know? And it's really hard to do that if it's an obligation. Whereas if I come off the heels, I used to do this. I used to come off the heels of a shoot and make myself wait to review the footage. At least like a day or two.
That's smart.
You would think, but it's also not.
Oh.
Because what happens is the shoulds creep in between that moment of the end and when you go to edit. And you start thinking about what should have happened in the interview, or what you should have gotten a soundbite of. And you're like, oh no, I didn't get that. And then the image of how you're going to put it together starts to get real hazy and blurry. And you're like, I don't even know what we're making now, you know?
Yeah.
And that happens even more so. I'll be quite frank. I felt like that initially after the Bold Summit, because there was at least 2 days where I couldn't review the Bold Summit footage itself, and I was so gung-ho to get into your interview stuff, that when it came time to make this big hype reel and make it really, like, I don't know, I had this vision in my head of how that was going to be, and then I got into the edit, and I was like, tonally, and what I'm seeing, it's not matching up.
Yeah.
And then the joy started to dissipate a little bit. And I will admit, this is where the walk away does come in handy. It's like how working a tough math problem. Walk away, come back with fresh eyes.
So true.
So walk away, come back with fresh eyes. Get over the disappointment that it's not what I thought it was going to be. and move on to, okay, well, we're going to start having fun with what it could be now, you know?
Yeah. And
And
find what it is.
exactly. And that's how we got to where we're at with that video, is that it became in the present moment, we're going to shape this as we go. We're going to have fun because we're not restricted by these previous ideas or shoulds of how it should be. We're not restricted by that anymore. We're free from that. So I was able to play with the moments and really listening to your keynote speech and listening to just what grabbed me. I'd sit there with the headphones on and just sit with my eyes closed and like go grab specific time stamps that I was like, oh man, I relate to that. Oh, I wish somebody had told me that. Because as an editor, that's the other half of that, is that I'm doing that I'm a viewer. I'm no different than you. I'm an audience member.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not going to put in something there, put the whole thing in there, or I'm not going to put the most boring parts. If there are, boring parts with your stuff, it's not boring. But, I will cut the most relevant information so that the audience, they aren't lost and you don't feel like you're like, oh man, I was just meandering there. And then on top of that, the creativity comes to the surface.
Yeah. It makes me curious how you are able to isolate one hat in the process when you wear so many for your business. Because there's a place also, so the shoulds, now maybe you can tell me if this isn't the case for you, but the shoulds come sometimes from a place of a really well-oiled inner critic. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying, you know what I mean? That because you hear those voices, right? Like you hear those voices, sometimes they can sharpen you, but sometimes they're just sharp. And so like, especially when you're reviewing the footage, in this moment though, you're acting as editor, but also you wear all the other hats. So how are you, because energetically, I'm thinking as a person with ADHD, knowing that you're still the same person. So the same instincts that you have viewing it, you're going to have as the videographer whose current job is being the editor, but you're also now thinking of maybe how you could have filmed that a little different, or, you know what I mean? And so it's like a lot of thoughts happening, and the idea of staying with the thought that's the most important one for now, How do you do that? Or is that a battle, or am I imagining it?
No, you're not imagining it. You're totally on point. A lot of times I would say it's like, it's an energy thing. In fact, I was thinking about this earlier. Ambition versus energy, those two things. And I've decided, I think ambition is consistent, whereas energy is not. Energy is ebb and flow, I've learned, or at least for me it is.
Yeah.
And I embrace that. That's the art, that's really the obstacle or the challenge, is to learn to embrace the fact that you do have down moments as well as you have very excitable moments, and you have neutral moments and everything in between. Ebb and flow, baby. That's energy. So how I feel in that moment when I'm filming somebody and what they're saying on camera, I could feel very emotional in that moment and think, oh my gosh, that's for sure a take we're going to use, right? And then I get into the edit and find it doesn't actually fit the overall storyline that we're trying to tell at all.
Yeah.
And I have to leave. A lot of times
That's
I have
a hard
to
job.
behind, and that is hard. There's so much that gets left behind because it's of the edit. But the thing is that's where the ambition is consistent. Because in those beginning conversations, there's always an underlying theme or goal, need, what have you, the way you want, however you want to look at it. There's a thing to accomplish with the video, a point to make. And if you make that point, that's up to the audience, But you can sure try the entire time that you're making the thing to make that point, In your case, the biggest thing I understood and took away from you and what you're doing with ADHD energy strategy, first and foremost, is that you're putting a certain kind of light and compassion in the world that I think we we all need more of. Not only for each other, but for ourselves more, you
Mm-hmm.
know? We need to stop shooting all over ourselves.
Yeah.
And in my case, it's perfectionistic tendencies. So my shoulds are often revolved around the most ideal version of the situation. And sometimes, when it comes to filming, that happens. Like, I want to share just a real brief story with you about, an opportunity in which I was able to film the parents of somebody who passed away on the DC crash that happened a couple years, I think a year or two ago now. And man, that's a really sensitive interview, as you can imagine. Parents
Oh my
of a
gosh, yeah.
child that's not, with them anymore. I really struggled. And even more so, the whole point of the video was to honor what their child had done in her life while she was alive. It was not really anything to do with the fact that she was no longer with us. That needed to be just a very small tidbit backside of the story. You know what I mean? That's not the driver of the story. We really didn't want to bring that to the surface. We wanted to bring to the surface her accomplishments of what she did in her lifetime, because they were remarkable. And so from the get-go of like day of shoot, we had planned to go film in a loft. I had a partner of mine, a former colleague, hook me up with this awesome downtown loft to go film in. And then I'm there to go set up, and I kid you not, I can't get into the building. And the coworker or colleague is not answering their phone. So I'm out of location. I've got these parents that are coming for an interview, a sensitive interview, months, at this point, only months after this incident has happened. It's like, I'm freaking out. And I could let myself spiral in that moment. I could have
Yeah.
probably opted and called and been like, maybe let's reschedule, but that didn't feel right either. So I pushed to do the interview. I did a Hail Mary pass to the organization, my client that's helping me out. And we set up for a different location to film in, got there, did the filming. It thankfully went off without a hitch. But again, it's not what I thought it was going to be like for a multitude of reasons, all the way down to the energy that I thought I was going to have with these parents. Because, I so desperately wanted to connect with them. But understandably, in that moment, I could see the shield. I'm an intuitive person. I can see when a person's guard is up, and that guard was definitely up. So we had to talk for a while about other things adjacent until we could get to the good stuff. And then the guards came down, and then we got to the really good stuff. But again, I didn't use half of the footage that, the most heart-wrenching, tear-jerking, that footage did not get used for the in piece, because it did not make sense for the context. The ambition for what the video was to be was to highlight this person's life legacy, not how they passed,
Yeah.
And so just remembering how to stay true to what you know, but also staying flexible as you go through the motions, I think has been a really big part of how I lead my business. Is like, we set out with one intention for sure, and it might look a little bit different at the end of what you thought. Like, the video might look a little bit different than what you thought, but it will hopefully say authentically what the message you're trying to send. It'll say it clearly,
I do know. I love that approach for you and for the people that you work with, because this, I believe, is one of the greatest lessons in life that you can learn and practice, is to have a plan for what you want, an intention, connect with your intention, but not in such a death grip type of way that you are unable to allow what it becomes naturally to unfold. And improv is a lot like that. You can't you can't predict everything. You can get a few things, and you can set up the location, and you can, all of these pieces, the relationship and all of it. Then you have to be in the scene. And when you're in the scene, the only way it works, even when it's not funny, even if it technically fails, at the end of the story, it's that you stay with it, you allow it to become what it is. You learn along the way, you make adjustments as you need to. You just can't predict life. That's the deal for whatever reason, And so being able to meet yourself, it really is a lesson for life, and how to be gentle and kind with the days that you have and the time you exist in.
Right.
And the relationship that you have with yourself is to make the space for that. Because also, there's, as a creative person, as an artist, I have found the times I've been the funniest, or the times I've connected the most, were the times that it wasn't the joke I planned, or the thing that I thought I would do. It was something else. And because I am an artist or a creative person who allows myself to exist, those things slip out,
I was actually going to ask you about that, Mo. That's
brilliance.
Like, does that come all up with your speaking engagements? Like, does that actually happen quite often, where it's a moment in the spiel that you don't expect to laugh, but people do laugh?
Totally. Well, and also you have to let yourself. So when you asked me earlier if the speech is memorized, over and over again, I'll write these things out that I want to say, but I literally keep the element of, this is basically what this is about. I mean, I don't treat it like I do a stand-up. It's not a set that's totally memorized. It's more, this is what this slide is about, or this is just the general arc of what I want to share. But then you have the element of the people in front of you too. So you feel into the space, and if you can feel them vibing with a certain message, I follow that very much like an improviser and host, that I will follow where the energy is going. This is why I love to do any kind of stage work, because when you get up in that space, you really are feeling into a shared energy. It's not just, hey, I'm going to project my energy. The fun in it for me is, I'm going to put my energy out. I'm going to feel where your energy's coming. I'm going to meet your energy wherever it meets. And then I would love to just ebb and flow with you for about an hour, and that's what we do. And so I feel like you have to let it do that. So yeah, I have a lot of those moments where it's like, gosh, I've never even said that before,
Can I do a quick shout out for what it's worth then? Because one of the things that stood out to me, and also my favorite little clips, is anytime I looked over to the audience while I was filming, you had laid these little streamer sticks out for everybody, little fidget toys, if you will. And you were talking about listening and following the ebb and flow of the energy in the audience. And I felt like that was just it was a brilliant tool to use to create a dialogue with your audience, but also, again, that flow, you could feel, like, I could tangibly feel when the energy was receptive to the audience. Yeah. Whatever you were throwing down, I'd see this girl like go,
yeah, that's what I wanted.
And like, just really, you could tell when she needed an outlet to let you know that she was really vibing with what you were saying.
Yeah.
All the time, also, as a neurodivergent, I should probably get that for my interviews. I need one without the bells,
Number one, yes, exactly. It gives people something to do with their hands, which we need fidget toys. We love I have one right now as we're talking. And it especially, it was the end of the day. It was the end of the day. So it's like, gosh, I knew that people were going to be tired or even struggling to stay awake, And so I was like, something to jack with, because that helps me stay awake. That helps me stay engaged. Also, though, if you're feeling something, when I get a bolt of energy, or like, whatever the thing is, I like to acknowledge that I'm vibing with you. So, and and it was a visual for me too, but it was also, I thought it would just look fun. And I'm also just a dork, and I'm like, what's fun? What would be something fun?
Hey, no, like I want to say something. Like you got me thinking. We need to bring this back. I have not been to an event. I don't know. COVID probably was the thing to stop it, but you remember when we used to go to like concerts or some sort of big event, and they'd whip out the little inflatable beach balls.
Yeah, yeah.
Pop those guys up. Boop, boop, boop. I'm sure they still do it now, but maybe
Yeah.
I've just been so, you know, up in my little
I haven't seen
editing.
something like that in a while, but it seems like it'd be fun, especially to do at the end of a conference. Like, even if you don't do it the whole time.
I just love little things like that when you
I do
go to
too.
an event and they have interactive things
Yeah.
that really, like I said, engage the audience with the event itself. That's money stuff. And also, as a videographer, that's always a joy to capture. So
Yeah.
it's
It
hard to,
just makes
I
things
think
feel fun.
the hardest thing though is just walking through the world with like a cinematic lens
Yeah.
on constantly, and that event particularly was tough in that sense because I couldn't be 300. I should have brought a 360-degree camera, honestly, because I couldn't be 360 and I wanted to be 360.
Yeah. That
There's a lot
event,
of cool stuff going
everywhere
on.
you looked was gorgeous.
Yeah,
And
just
something was happening that was like you said, cinematically. Like, I'm thinking of like Instagram, like what I would make a video out of and post to, like, this was bold. So you're right, it really was a lot like that, but you guys did a really good job capturing it. And they had some great footage too, and the people who were there, you're right, it was just like everything you looked at was stunning.
Well, and it's like, I don't know about you, but one thing I love the most about the community within ADHD Energy Strategy is this whole idea that when we bring ourselves to cheerlead for others or to be a champion for others, which is what that group that's the vibe, is like we're here to encourage each other as we go through life's journey, and all the ADHD-ness that we deal with. Like, we're a place of support and of encouragement. And I find that when you're in spaces like that, especially when there's more and more people that come into that space with that mentality and that shared purpose, we all elevate together collectively. As an individual, sure, but we are all elevated as a result. And so with that event, as I was walking through, part of making cinematic moments happen is that it's not that I'm making anything happen. It's literally that I have the camera ready to go and thankfully a finger ready to push record. That's pretty much it, and the ability to spot the moment in the wild. But otherwise, I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of sitting there quietly, waiting for this moment to happen. And when I was walking through Bold Summit, that was just organically happening left and right, where it's just women really encouraging each other and being like trying to give a sense of elevation to each other, like you
Yeah.
can be your best self at this place. You can be honest, you can be vulnerable, and because of that, you're still amazing. You're still
Hmm.
awesome. We love that. We want that. We're gonna all
Yeah.
share in that. Oh,
And
so
that's
good.
the voice you want to keep in your head when that inner critic and that should voice creeps in too. There are a lot of voices up here talking to me right now. You're just one of them.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's the ambition, the
Yes.
consistency.
Yeah.
I love journaling just in general because my brightest voice, I consider myself generally an optimist, and the reason I consider myself that is that anytime I go to journal, even on my worst days, however bitchy I might start the entry, the ending, without fail, is of something of grace and light. And really, that's all I'm here to do is I want to
Yeah.
put good in the world, and I won't, when I'm filming people, I'm just trying to capture the goodness. I'm trying to capture that beauty that exists, because frankly, we need to see it more in order for us to feel it also internally. It's that reciprocal thing, you know? Like I said, with the community, seeing other people being so graceful to themselves when they share, you know, whatever's going on, whatever their big plight is that they're trying to, you know, conquer. It's a vulnerability, but like also it's like, man, I'm here for you. I'm cheering you on. But then also it pays it forward inward too. Because if I'm saying that outward, I'm also, that goes to me too, right? You wouldn't say something nasty to your best friend that you know that phrase? What is that phrase? I always mess it up. I'm the worst at phrases.
Oh my gosh, I don't know it either. I was so just lost listening to you that I forgot to. You asked a question. I was like, that is a thing. You don't
say anything to your best friend that you
don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to your best friend. Or talk to yourself like you're your best friend.
Exactly. That whole mentality.
We need those types of messages for ourselves, and it's good to hear ourselves say it out loud, because I feel like you're right. You hear it and you think, you know, that really is just true. That really is just, it's hard out there, and why make it harder? And, you know, there's always, I especially think for, you know, artists or creative people, or just for any person, actually, any person, you have where you're at currently, and you have this vision of where you'd like to be someday, which is the thing that got you excited about it, because you could just see this whole life about this thing, you know? And this goes a lot to what we were talking about earlier about letting it become what it's going to unfold into also. So whether it's your life journey or whatever else it might be, even though you have this vision of what it will eventually be one day, voices of you should, you know, this, because if you don't, then, you know, those types of voices, inner critic. And to have people, especially people who get your brain and go, oh girl, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like your inner critic. Mine is very loud too. And sometimes we forget that that's the voice of an inner critic and not our own voice. And so the more you practice saying things like that out loud too, you're like, it's good for repetition. But being in community where especially people can see ADHD traits or OCD traits, that's something like you and I both share, where you talk about your perfectionistic tendencies, and this helps us see it more. It helps us be more compassionate, because when we see it in other people, we really feel that because we have experienced it too. But for some reason, we've punished ourselves about it. You know what I mean? It's like, but when I hear you talk about it, it's really hard to hear because you're amazing, you know?
Yes. It can't possibly.
It's hard. And I've experienced it. It's really hard for me. And then you're like, oh, it is hard for you. Why are you so mean to yourself?
Be nice. Let me be nice to you. Absorb some of my nice vibes.
Literally, I am so nice, you know? Wow, I'm such a good friend. Why did I do that to myself?
Truly. And like, again, I love how reciprocal it is. Like, I love this as a challenge. And I challenge anybody to do this, really. Today, send a random nice message to somebody that anybody, like, just open up your phone, go to your contacts list, pick somebody at random and send them a nice message at random. Because the way that works, there's this fantastic book. I cannot be a bigger advocate for a book, but it's called The Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. And he talks a lot about how love it's not a finite resource. It's infinite. So you can give compliments all day long to anybody, everywhere, including yourself. You know, we forget that that's supposed to come back. Like, we send it out, but that's supposed to come back in. And that energy, I love the practice that when you send it out to some random person, because it is random, it's not because it was prompted, you're, by way of doing that, absorbing some of that residual oxytocin energy. It's kind of like looking at your dogs and dog in the eyes, and how you both get oxytocin from doing that. Same logic. Go compliment somebody today, and then think about how good that internally made you feel and like the optimism that just naturally came out of that, right? It's a lot easier. It's a great way of stunting the shoulds or the I'm especially like in the relationship arena. I should
Yeah.
go out with this person. Just send a nice text. Say something nice. Make a nice phone call.
Yeah. That's such good advice. And my only other add-on to that advice would be, and don't get butthurt if they don't write back.
No, exactly. Because remember, the whole point is not for them necessarily. It's
Yeah.
more about, you put out love into the ether,
Yeah.
belief, it will
Let
come
it
back.
go. You literally
Let it
let it
go,
go.
it
There's
will
no
come back.
string. I only say that because every once in a while,
Fair
I
point.
don't know about you, but every once in a while, you go hard for someone. You're like, oh, wow, I really said something nice. I didn't even hear back.
Well, that's why I like the random one.
Yeah,
That's why I'm very specific about random because I do too. I go really hard with people and I'm like, oh no, now I'm like, I spiral if they
I
don't.
do it too. I do it too.
But that's
I'm
really
like, I didn't expect anything, but now that I think about it, I never heard anything back. Wow.
But like it actually just happened to me I did this just this morning. It was pointed out to me that lately I've been going a little too hard on work and well, more
Well,
like my work and my social life have been blending a
same.
little bit too much.
Yeah.
And that's cool, it's fine, I guess, but I could afford
Yeah.
to do some more social stuff that's outside of work and not a creative. Or if it is creative, it's not video creative. You know
Yeah.
what
You're
I
craving a little more balance.
Exactly. Remember that there's more to life than videos and photos and
Yeah.
sharing about fun concepts and ideas because those are really it's easy to hyperfixate on that and find a lot of fulfillment in it, but it's not sustainable if I do that
Yeah.
24/7. So, this
Good point.
morning I decided I would send a random text to two of my old coworkers to invite them out for dinner this week. And admittedly, they are the people that you ran into and you're like, we should get coffee sometime. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. And then you never get coffee. They are they're those friends. And so I sent that message knowing full well we might not actually get coffee this week. But that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm still fine with that because I, at least internally for me, all I wanted to do was show myself that, hey, I still care about these people. And by
Yes.
making this is a gesture of me showing I want to have a relationship. So, that
Yeah.
felt somewhat good to me, and it was less about I should have a better social life, It kind of freed me
Yeah.
from it a little bit.
Yeah, like some people you actually are interested in investing in. It doesn't have to turn into anything, but I care about this person. I'm thinking of them. Might as well.
I love that I'm thinking of you
That's the thing
message.
I love too. So it's the exact same energy as what you just talked about. It just pop in my head. I'm gonna let you know. There it is. Moving on with my life. Love
Yes,
that.
and it's no obligations. Like you were
Yeah,
talking about earlier, I love doing that maneuver because then I don't even have the expectation that you're going to message me back, so I'm not hurt.
exactly. Yeah, gosh, I want to get into a whole nother subject. We'll save this for another time, but in the future, let's talk about the way that we invest in relationships energetically as ADHDers, expectations, unspoken things.
Oh my-
Because a lot like what you're saying is like, it can get complicated because I think we're pretty good at being in relationships. We could get lost in it. Maybe not all of us, but I think the really deep feely ones do, especially if you've ever had people pleasing tendencies at all. So that
Or,
would be a fun another topic for a different day.
yeah, that rejection sensitive,
Yeah,
yeah, that's real. Whew.
it is. Well, gosh,
This has been
I
awesome.
I have loved this. I don't even want it to end. And I knew in total ADHD or form that I was thinking in my head, well, like 50 minutes. But then we just kept flowing and I wasn't even looking at the clock. But you know what? I get to put up whatever I want.
That is the beautiful thing. Well, in fairness, one thing I am taking a big, I always look at analytics for my clients and I do it for myself as well.
Yeah.
in terms of viewership and when people start and stop watching. Do they
Yeah.
actually watch the whole video or are they only watching the first 5 seconds?
Yeah.
And I've noticed the trend across the board for my clients is that duration does matter if it's like an hour and 45 minutes long. Obviously, yeah, it matters. That's like a whole movie. It better be a movie
Yeah.
if it's
We're
that
getting
long.
into Gone with the Wind territory.
Right. Right. But also if what you're saying really resonates and is it's very authentic and the vibe feels like it's there, chances are is that that does translate across the camera and your audience will stay with you for it. That's why podcasts work,
Yeah.
that's why radio has been so successful despite the innovation of TV. If people are interested, they'll stay here to listen.
For sure. I
I,
know I will.
Mo, I will always be a listener for ADHD Energy Strategy because I
Well, I
love
appreciate
what
that.
you guys put out. And you talk to some fascinating people.
Oh, well, thank you. We'll see where this thing flows and goes and ebbs. And because I think, to speak to what we've shared this entire conversation, this podcast has been a real fun experiment to find what I like, to find what those who are engaging in the community like. And we'll see. I'm going to let this thing keep rolling. I'm not sure if it'll stay looking exactly like this or change up, but what I love about this space is that I give it the permission to become whatever it is. So that's kind of where I'm at on it, but I'm really enjoying especially chats like this, because for me, what's cool about someone who is an encourager like you are, a person who is a friend, a person who's a collaborator, and also someone who legitimately engages in this community. That really means a whole lot to me. And I want people to know about you and your work. And that's how I feel about each sponsor for this podcast. It's not something to me where I just wanted an ad to randomly play in the middle of a different podcast about something else entirely, come and hear from Ashley. That's this is why I like these types of interviews. It's not just a person who bought the spot at all, because as you know, Ashley, this is not one of those things. It's like everybody can just buy it. It's like, this really is an intimate connection. It feels good. I really do. Have you ever seen Frasier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know how Frasier was so specific about who he would do ads for. He was like, no, I have to believe it,
Exactly.
And so I
Exactly.
really feel that way. And I'm like, and I don't need to be, I want people, if you want to know about a person who's amazing at film and video and telling stories, that's at the end of the day. Like, you're here to facilitate the telling of a person's story and to ensure that a person is being seen in a way that feels good to them, that shines light on all the goodness that they have. This is who I have seen can do that. And she's amazing at it, and she really cares. Oh, by the way, she's an ADHDer, and she's someone who experiences OCD tendencies and APD, and so she understands the way your brain works too, and she supports this community, not just in the way of being on this podcast, but coming and hanging out. And so it's like you can hang out with people like Ashley too. Like, to me, this is the coolest thing ever that we get to do this. And I love to talk to you and your brain, because I feel like you said earlier, we have more in common maybe than we realize. But I also think, because I assume we might be different, I've learned some things already in all the time that we've known each other about myself, which is cool too.
So much. Yes. It's like that is in essence what the community is like seeing little aspects of yourself that you're like, oh, there's another version of that piece of me out there.
Yeah.
I've never seen it objectively, but that's what that looks like. No, okay.
Yeah. And maybe you love it, which I think is cool. I notice a lot, like, I love that we do that. I love that that's such an ADHD thing, or that's such an OCD thing, or even that it's like, oh, I'm glad I saw you experience it that way, because now I'm seeing it different next time I see it. And so it's just really exciting. I feel like I know myself better, and these are all cool as fuck people that I want to hang out with. And yeah, I have some clients in here and all these other things, but it's not that kind of relationship. This is such a collaborative space. It's not traditional. I come and I chat at your heads and you listen.
It's not. And one other thing I do want to plug real quick is that for you also to do coaching, your coach work does bleed into the community and your newsletters, and like it definitely blends into both. And I love it so much because, again, as somebody with OCD, I am often looking for something tangible, a label of some kind, something I can grasp to understand why or what it is, what the thing is, And a lot of times with these meetings or with the newsletters, or I'm sure even in your coaching, you're giving real scientific explanation for why we are the way we are. And it's like, oh, we're talking biology now. That's some scientific stuff. It goes beyond just like, let's be nice to each other. That's nice. But there's actual tangible evidentiary knowledge that you are sharing, that you're bringing to the table, that you, are bringing to the table. And I love that so, so much. And I think it needs to be shared more as far as like that kind of knowledge. So any way that I can help perpetuate you and bring you to the surface of other people's minds, I'm like, that's what I want, because you've guided me so much inadvertently with your knowledge.
Ooh, I love that. That's really good. I appreciate the feedback. I'm literally, I know we're on a podcast right now, but I'm like taking notes. I'm like, I like what she just said. I need to keep that in mind. I really need to keep that in mind. This is the me who's like, all of a sudden the coach in me is, and the podcaster in me are here at the exact same time.
See, and you want to talk about balancing roles. You think I balance a lot of roles. You balance a lot of roles, miss. You do, and you do it like a freaking champ. So it's also a matter of seeing inspiration in front of you, displayed right in front of you, of like, if she can be like this, I could be like this too.
Dude, I feel the same way. I feel that way in your presence too. Thank you for being here and hanging out and going longer than we said we would. Darn it. No, we both did it. We do it. This is what we do. I honestly probably in my head, I could have planned it on my schedule differently, but I also give myself a lot of room because I like to go slow. I like to take my time and I like to see where things go, And some people think that's crazy, but I have to do it that way, so I've got the space, girl. We got it. That is it for me. Those are all the questions. Is there anything unexpressed today that we thought we might talk about, or that you feel like let me throw this one thing out there?
Just that if you don't know about ADHD energy strategy, you should probably get on board. Definitely sign up for the newsletters, because
thank you.
I love those newsletters so much, and they come at a point in my week where I always really need it, and then on top of it, it always weirdly resonates with whatever's going on in my life that week. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the only one out here that is having, burnout fatigue or something vague like that.
Yeah.
But you get my point. So
I literally, this may sound a little cheesy, but I feel into the energy that I'm feeling into a lot. And I see that is something that resonates, is this sort of unconscious collective energy that we're all sort of feeling, because it happens a lot that people will say, this is exactly the vibe of what I'm experiencing this week. And so thank you for saying that, because as you know, this isn't a newsletter where I pitch you every week and try to get you worked into a funnel. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what this is. It really is just like a field guide for ADHDers, and let's understand ourselves better. So thank you for saying that. That really means a lot. This is what I love about you. You see the story. This is what I want people to feel when they experience it. So it's so cool to hear you say it back. Thank you.
Oh, good.
She's a filmmaker. You guys are literally watching her do it.
It landed. She landed.
In real life.
Yeah, cinematic.
It's coaching too, what you do, just for the record. But it really is coaching what you do to bring people in that space. But maybe that's our next podcast.
I
Also,
always thought it was more like a bartender. Bartender or coach? Our next topic. Tune in.
honestly, stay tuned for more. All right, Ashley. Well, that's all for me. Thank you for hanging out today.
Oh, you're the best, Mo.
I'm returning to the part that's mine. Breathing out the stories that confine. Redefining who I get to be.